Alright, so we're working on Photo Restore. As you can see, I've already done quite a bit of work. And I'm working pretty quickly here. Just for the video's sake, I just wanted to go over some of the basic tools we're gonna do. And most of that's gonna have to do with the spot healing brush and the stamp tool. And then we'll do a little bit kind of blending work with the regular paintbrush. So let's just come in here first. And we're just going to use a spot healing brush to clean things up quickly. Now, spot healing brush is best for areas that are kind of similar texture, not a lot of crazy stuff going on in them. And you can just generally click in here to kind of get an idea. And just little clicks to work out these cracks. And this works good in things like backgrounds especially. It's not really as great for more complicated areas like the face or the hair especially. If you use a spot healing brush in the hair, uh, see how you have texture here? If we start using the spot healing brush in here, oh, actually that cleaned that up a little bit. But if you did it with a cracked area, like in here, it probably wouldn't be the best result. It's a little blurrier than using the actual stamp tool, which we're going to use. So that's what we will try to do. And you see sometimes it picks stuff up like that because it is trying to be content aware and just grab a general area close. So we're going to have to finish up with the stamp tool. Now the stamp tool, you just got to remember you hit Alt for the area you want to select close to it. I'm going to make my brush a little smaller because the hairline is important to get kind of just right because it's going to look very distinctive when you're done. So just trying to clean up along the edge here and get that nice definite edge. And I'll come in here and clean up, make my brush a little bigger, and I'm just going to just hold Alt to grab an area next to it, and you go and you work it, and you try to figure out what you want from this area. And you're just grabbing and basically copying a spot and putting it over, but as long as it's a small enough brush and it's close enough to what you want to do, it does an excellent job at blending for you. And things like hair, this is a good thing to use. Like for example, over here, and you can see it's a little blurrier because I used a lot of the hair from over here to try to get that same line up there with the curve, and I didn't use the straight hair down here. So I'm just holding Alt, selecting an area, clicking a few times, going back down. I try not to run over the same areas many times. I try to grab from new areas. I find it gives a little bit more realistic looking blend. So this is pretty good going down. Got a spot here I'm going to just zoom in on because it's tough, and I've got a choice. Do I keep it skin here and reduce the hair a little, or go the other way? And I think I'm going to keep it skin here, and I'm just going to try to work it out a little, getting the tone right when I'm blending, which is difficult. Now, before I go to the eye, I'm just going to show you some other things you should do. And this is stuff you really usually do at the beginning. If we look at this picture, usually I come in and I adjust either the curves or the levels. Like if I come to the levels right here, I usually adjust the levels right to the peaks. You can see it'll sharpen it up because there's nothing really happening in these. And even if you hit auto, it will usually do that. It'll snap it there. This one took it, made it a little darker. And like this will take up the highs of the darkness. But just playing with the levels can change how the picture looks. And I'm going to actually agree with the auto and try to get it just to look a little different. I'm just going to play around with my levels. So I'm going to keep that. You can do the same thing with curves. The curves looks like this, and it also has an auto button where it'll bend it for you. Maybe it gives you a little extra light. And this is just what curves does. You can really play with it depending on what you want to do. I like that where I get just a little darker for the black and white. But when I'm going to paint it, I might want to bring it back up, or when I'm going to add color, I might want to bring it back up. But I think this is giving me more detail. So I would typically do that before I got started with this restoration. Now I just got to work on kind of the eye with the stamp tool here. Eyebrows are tricky. Do them in really small little bitty pieces. And this is why they become tricky, because you get this area in here where the colors don't really match up well. And you gotta decide, how am I gonna do this? Am I gonna come all the way from over here? Is it darker there because of the bend? And I think that's what we're gonna go with. I'm gonna try to work it over. Try to get something to look kinda natural. You can turn the pixelization off if you want, where it gets that way. And in here, I'm just gotta make my brush really small to get that line right there, because that is an extremely important line in terms of how the picture is gonna look when it's done. And that's in here. All of this in here is really fine detail stuff. And eyes can be one of the more difficult things to do, especially because, you know, there's the iris, and how big do you make the eyeball? You know it's going to be round. So eyes can be difficult. Alright, so I'm just touching this up quick. Now right here, I'm just trying to bring the eyelash over. And this one I know I'm going to back out and look at, and that's really going to be the judge, because you can tell right here it's got issues this far zoomed in. But you really don't know how bad it is until you zoom out, and that gives you a lot of perspective. So zooming out does help. Now, zoom out all the way, it's not terrible, but I still have that hot streak in there. So I got to go in and try to fix that or work on that. So we are going to zoom in. We know that this is obviously too bright. So this is going to help with that bright streak we have. That was too dark. Sometimes getting a bigger blending brush helps. As I said, this is tough because right here, you know, it is dark here. And then we got that shadow going on right here. So there's a lot of action going on here, and it's kind of deciding, like, where do you bring it over to? How far do you bring it over? And this might have given me a little bit of what I'm looking for. It's still kind of ugly, but zoom out, it's starting to get better. Still got this hot line here. I can do some blending with that. And up here, if I make my brush bigger, this is where having the larger brush helps when you're trying to. Now the small details. Now here's going to be the hardest bit, because you can't use a bigger brush there really. And this is where we can try some content aware. That's no good. We can try it again. It has merit, but it's not doing exactly what we want. So you just got to kind of go in and play with it. And just clean it up a little. We can try to make the brush smaller in the content aware and try to just clean it up this way. And that's not what we want. And for now, for the sake of the video, that's probably as good as we're going to get for that. But we got some stuff up here. We can make this a little bit bigger and try to clean that out. There are some other tools we could use. For example, if we did end up with some place where we blended badly. So let's say I came over here and, I got a couple dabs that were just too dark. You can also, if you're having trouble blending, you can switch to the brush and make sure the flow is like kind of low and the opacity is kind of low, because we don't want it to be a strong brush, we want it to be real weak. And then we can kind of pick that area around there, and we can use the brush kind of to softly work in kind of what we want, kind of like adding blush or something. So we've taken this picture and turned it, added a little warmth to it, and we're working on it. And I just got a spot over here too. I think I wanna just work over. And doing this, you got a soft brush, so it's like adding a little blush. It's not really strong. Does it nice and slow, so you don't really got to worry too much. So we've come from here to here.